It's interesting, we live in this era of optimization. Everyone is trying to hack their way to a better life. We have apps for sleep, gadgets for fitness, endless books on productivity. But despite all these tools, there's this pervasive sense of exhaustion. Not just I need a nap exhaustion, but a deep, soul-level fatigue.
It's the fragmentation, Noah. We treat ourselves like machines made of separate parts. We take the car to the mechanic for the engine, but we ignore the transmission. We treat the body in the gym, maybe we treat the mind with a book, but we rarely address the whole system at once.
Right, and that's what drew me to the topic today. We're looking at this idea of wholeness rather than just wellness, specifically through three very old, very traditional practices: prayer, meditation, and exercise. Welcome to the show, everyone. I'm Noah.
And I'm Eloise. It's great to be here.
So, Eloise, the listener might look at that list, prayer, meditation, exercise, and say, okay, I know what those are. I've heard of them. But the argument here is that they aren't just a checklist. They are interconnected gears. Why do you think we need all three? Can't I just be a runner and call it a day?
You certainly could, and you'd have a very healthy cardiovascular system. But if we look at the history of human development, we see that we are multidimensional beings. Think about the ancient Greeks. They had the gymnasium for the body, but they also had the academy for the mind and the temple for the spirit. They understood that if you over-index on one, you become lopsided.
Lopsided is a good word for it, like a table with one short leg.
Exactly. If you only exercise, you might be physically strong, but mentally anxious. If you only meditate, you might be calm, but physically lethargic. The proposition we're exploring today is that these three specific habits, prayer, meditation, and movement, triangulate to cover the entire human experience.
Let's break them down one by one, starting with perhaps the most loaded term for some people, prayer. In a secular world, or at least a very diverse one, how do we define the function of prayer in this wellness context?
It's a vital question. From a functional perspective, regardless of one's specific theology, prayer is an act of surrendering control. Psychologically, this is huge. We walk around carrying the weight of the world, our jobs, our families, global politics, thinking we have to manage it all.
Which is impossible. We can't control 90% of that.
Right. And that cognitive dissonance creates massive stress. A study published in the Journal of Psychology and Theology actually looked at this. They found that individuals who engaged in prayers of gratitude or lament, essentially handing over their worries, showed higher levels of psychological well-being compared to those who just ruminated on their problems.
So it's about humility? Admitting you aren't the CEO of the universe?
Precisely. It's a reality check. When you pray, you are acknowledging a hierarchy where you are not at the top. That sounds restrictive, but it's actually incredibly liberating. It allows you to say, "This is too heavy for me," and put it down.
It grounds you. I like that. It stops the ego from spiraling. Now, how does that differ from meditation? Because a lot of people use those terms interchangeably, where they say running is my meditation.
People do say that, and while running is therapeutic, it isn't meditation in the strict sense. If prayer is about speaking or releasing to something greater, meditation is about listening and observing the self. It's the practice of stillness.
The stillness is the hard part. I mean, if I sit still for 5 minutes, my brain immediately starts making a grocery list.
That's actually the point. You notice the grocery list. You notice the chaos. Without meditation, you are the chaos. You're just reacting to every impulse. Meditation creates a wedge of space between the stimulus, the grocery list thought, and your reaction to it.
So it's training attention. It's cognitive weightlifter.
Yes, and the science backs this up aggressively. There was a meta-analysis from Johns Hopkins University that reviewed nearly 19,000 meditation studies. They concluded that mindfulness meditation programs had moderate evidence of improved anxiety, depression, and pain. It literally changes the structure of the brain, increasing the density of gray matter in the hippocampus, which is responsible for learning and memory.
Okay, so we have prayer to handle the existential weight and the soul. We have meditation to sharpen the mind and emotional regulation. Now we get to the body, exercise. But we aren't talking about getting shredded for Instagram here, are we?
No, and that's a critical distinction. In this triad, exercise is about honoring the vessel. You cannot have a clear mind and a peaceful soul if your body is screaming in pain from neglect. It's about stewardship.
I think about the biochemistry here too. We tend to separate mental health from physical health, but exercise is one of the most potent antidepressants we have.
It is. When you move, you aren't just burning calories. You are releasing brain-derived neurotropic factor, or BDNF. Neuroscientists often call this miracle grow for the brain. It helps neurons grow and survive. So when you go for that walk or lift those weights, you are physically building the hardware your mind needs to function.
It connects back to discipline, too. I feel like there's a grit component to exercise that translates to the other two. If I can force myself to do a set of squats when I'm tired, I'm probably better equipped to sit in silence when I'm bored.
That is the key insight, Noah. They reinforce each other. Think about it. Have you ever tried to meditate after drinking 4 cups of coffee and sitting on the couch all day? It's impossible. You're jittery. But if you exercise first, you've burned off that cortisol. Your body is ready to rest. Suddenly, the meditation becomes deeper.
And conversely, if you meditate, you have the focus to actually push through a workout without getting distracted or quitting early.
Exactly. And if you pray, you have the gratitude to appreciate that your body can move at all. It's a virtuous cycle. When you remove one, the stool falls over.
I want to play devil's advocate for a second. This sounds great, the holy trinity of wellness. But life is messy. People are busy. Is it realistic to ask someone to do all 3 of these every single day? It feels like a lot of time.
That's the most common pushback. I don't have an hour in the morning. But we need to reframe the scale. We aren't talking about a monk's existence. We're talking about microdoses of sanity.
Give me an example. What does a realistic routine look like for a single parent or a busy executive?
Okay, let's break it down. You wake up, instead of grabbing your phone immediately, you take 3 minutes. 2 minutes to sit on the edge of the bed and pray, set an intention, hand over your worries. Then 5 minutes of breathing exercises or silent observation. That's 7 minutes total.
7 minutes is doable. Everyone has 7 minutes. But the exercise...
The exercise doesn't have to be a 60-minute CrossFit class. It can be a 15-minute brisk walk on your lunch break, or 10 minutes of stretching and push-ups before a shower. The data shows that consistency beats intensity every time. A study in the British Journal of Sports Medicine found that just 11 minutes of moderate to vigorous activity a day significantly lowered the risk of premature death.
11 minutes. So we're talking about maybe 20 minutes total scattered throughout the day to hit all 3 categories.
Yes, and the return on investment for those 20 minutes is higher than almost anything else you do. You're buying yourself energy, clarity, and emotional resilience.
I want to touch on the soul aspect again. We talked about prayer, but there's a nuance there. In our current culture, we see a rise in what people call spiritual but not religious. Can this framework work for someone who doesn't believe in a traditional God?
Absolutely. If the word prayer feels like a barrier, think of it as connection to the transcendent. It could be communicating with nature, or speaking to the collective good of humanity, or simply acknowledging the mystery of existence. The mechanism is what matters, looking outward and upward, rather than just inward.
It's about escaping the trap of the self. There's a lot of narcissism in modern wellness, isn't there? My truth, my journey. Prayer, or that transcendent connection, forces you to acknowledge you're just one small part of a very big picture.
It corrects our scale. When we are the center of the universe, every traffic jam is a personal tragedy. When we are small parts of a greater whole, a traffic jam is just a traffic jam.
Let's look at the historical context a bit more. You mentioned the Greeks, but this triad appears in various forms across cultures, doesn't it?
It's everywhere. In the yogic tradition of India, you have the asanas, postures or exercise, dhyana, meditation, and Ishvara pranadhana, surrender to a higher power. In the Christian monastic tradition, you have ora et labora, pray and work, where manual labor was the physical component paired with constant prayer and contemplation.
So we aren't inventing a new biohack here. We're just remembering something we forgot.
We are remembering how to be human. The modern world tries to split us into consumers, workers, and bodies. This practice is an act of rebellion. It says, no, I am a whole integrated being.
I love that idea of rebellion. It's resisting the fragmentation. But what about when it goes wrong? Is there a danger in obsessing over this balance? I'm thinking of people who get rigid about their routine to the point where the routine becomes the stressor.
That is a very real trap. It's called orthorexia in the food world, but it applies here too. A fixation on doing the healthy thing perfectly. If you miss your meditation and then beat yourself up for the rest of the day, you've missed the point of the meditation.
Right, you're judging yourself, which is the opposite of the stillness and acceptance you were trying to cultivate.
Exactly. The goal isn't perfection, it's wholeness. Wholeness implies that there is room for error. If you miss a day, or if your prayer feels dry, or if your workout was terrible, that's part of the human experience too. The practice is there to serve you, not the other way around.
Let's pivot to the practical application for our listeners who are feeling burned out right now. They're hearing this and they're nodding, but they're also exhausted. How do you start when your tank is empty?
When the tank is empty, you don't try to drive across the country. You just try to turn the engine over. Start with the path of least resistance. For many people, that's actually the body.
Why the body?
Because it's tangible. Prayer can feel abstract. Meditation can feel frustratingly subtle. But doing 10 squats, you feel that immediately. Your heart rate goes up, your blood moves. It gives you a quick win.
Get the blood moving, then tackle the mind.
Right. Once you've moved, sit for just 2 minutes. Don't try to reach enlightenment. Just listen to the air conditioner hum. Just be there. And then, before you stand up, just say a simple thank you. That's the prayer. Boom. You've done the triad.
It's deceptively simple, but I imagine the cumulative effect over a year is massive.
It's compound interest. One day doesn't change much, but 365 days of acknowledging your soul, calming your mind, and strengthening your body, you become a different person. You become more resilient to trauma, more available to your loved ones, and more creative in your work.
We've talked about the internal benefits. Does this spill over? If I do this, does it help the people around me, or is it just a selfish pursuit?
It is the opposite of selfish. Think about who you are when you are stressed, stiff, and disconnected. Are you a good partner? A patient parent? A thoughtful boss?
Definitely not. I'm reactive. I'm short-tempered.
Right. But when you are grounded through prayer, steadied by meditation, and energized by exercise, you bring your best self to the table. You have a surplus of patience and energy to give away. You cannot pour from an empty cup.
That's a powerful image. It reminds me of the oxygen mask rule on airplanes. Secure your own mask before assisting others.
It's a cliche because it's true. And in a world that is increasingly chaotic, being a person of peace is a public service. If you can walk into a tense meeting and remain calm because you meditated that morning, you lower the temperature for everyone in the room.
So to wrap this up, we're looking at a reintegration of the human self. We've spent maybe the last century dissecting ourselves into parts: biology, psychology, theology, and this approach is about stitching them back together.
Stitching them back together to create a fabric that doesn't tear easily. Mind, body, and soul aren't 3 buckets. They are 3 currents in the same river. When they flow together, the river is strong.
Eloise, thank you for breaking this down. It's a good reminder that the answers aren't always in a new app or a new purchase, but in these ancient fundamental practices.
Thank you, Noah. It's always good to remember that we are built for wholeness.
And for everyone listening, the challenge this week is simple. Don't overhaul your life. Just look for those small pockets of time. Ask yourself, am I caring for my mind? Am I strengthening my body? Am I nurturing my soul? Start small. Be consistent. Thanks for joining us.